She was human but also inhuman. Mentally, she could be called a grotesque. She understood good and evil, but understanding them was as far as she took it. She was the type who, unfettered by those concepts, would work toward her objectives unfazed. In praise of your work, I come bearing a gift from Lord Aints. She pulled the item he had entrusted to her out of space. It was a small box with multiple seals on it. The box would never open unless all the conditions were met. Its albedo watched like a researcher observing a guinea pig as the girl received it with gratitude. And the girl was a guinea pig. That was precisely why their interests aligned. Thank you. Please extend my gratitude to Lord Aints Ul Gown as well. I will. Regarding the other thing you wanted, that goes without saying, right? Of course. Nothing will make me happier than receiving your mercy upon paying the fair price. She smiled. It was an adorable smile. Which was why Albedo asked, if you open the box, your wish will come true, but are you capable of that? What would the members of Nazarick think if they knew Albedo was worried about a human? But once the girl's wish came true, she would be given a position equivalent to a domain guardian. Would Albedo be punished for showing a little concern for a future subordinate? Yes, Lady Albedo, I am already preparing. Oh, then make sure you're ready by the time we invade. Understood, your greatness. When the girl bowed her head, Albedo looked behind her. The thing lurking there appeared and bowed its head as well. She felt like it might be wise to give this girl more troops, but she held back. If this girl's activities were discovered before the Nation of Darkness attacked, there would be no point in bringing her into Nazarick. In other words, this was a test. Then that's enough formal discussion. The tone of Albedo's voice changed. Rena looked confused. Is it too early to leave? Shall we chat about something? Have a seat now. Why don't you tell me about your puppy dog? Albedo was met with an ear-to-ear grin. It would be my pleasure, Lady Albedo. And if you don't mind, could I hear about Lord Aints Ul Gown too? Intermission deep in the slain theocracy, not many people were permitted to enter this sacred room. First, the one with the loftiest status in the theocracy, the High Priest Superior. Then the 6 High Priests, each in charge of a denomination for each of the 6 gods. Incidentally, the next High Priest Superior would be chosen from these High Priests. This excluded the current High Priest Superior. The High Priest of Fire was Br Nice Nagua Santini. She was the sole woman in this gathering. She was over 50 years old. Perhaps due to her age, she was rather plump. Her motherly smile calmed all who saw it. The High Priest of Water was Zindine de Langelfi. He was an old man, like a withered tree branch. His face had wizened, making his age a mystery. His skin had already grayed. This meant his health was a concern, but he had no rivals when it came to knowledge and wisdom. The High Priest of Wind was Dominic Iapatuch. He appeared to be a gentle old man, but he was a former member of the Sunlit Scripture, a holy warrior who had massacred many different races. It was said his rage was like a roaring fire, and his murderousness was like ice and snow. The High Priest of Earth was Raymond Zerg Laurensin. He was the youngest member, a man with a sharp gaze. He was in his 40s, but it was hard to tell his age despite his life force. He was a former Black Scripture member and a hero who had been fighting to protect the country for over 15 years. Yvon Jasna Delacroix was the High Priest of Light. With his tapered eyes and slight frame, he looked dangerous, but everyone present knew that wasn't so. As a faith caster, he ranked first or second in this gathering. Maximilian Olio Lagula was the High Priest of Darkness. He wore round glasses and used an improved form of the spell floating board to keep several books hovering around him. He originally worked in the judicial administration, so many of the books were about law. Aside from these people, the 3 heads of the judicial, legislative, and executive branches were allowed. Also present was the chief of the research organization where they developed new magic. And the most superior military officer, the Generalissimo, was there. This group of 12 members formed the Supreme Executive Agency. When they entered the room, they purified it using the cleaning tools they brought with them. Dusters, dry wipes, wet wipes. They were magic items for sucking up dust. They cleaned the room with practiced hands. There wasn't a single wasted motion. Though they were the most elite of the slain theocracy's 15 million people, they cut no corners. They got their neat robes dusty and sweating as they continued cleaning. They wanted to not let a single speck of dirt remain. When they were done, the room which had been cleaned to begin with gleamed. They wiped the sweat from their brows, lined up, and bowed deeply to the 6 statues. The statues watched over the room from its rear. We thank the gods that we mere humans live another day." After the high priest superior spoke, the others intoned their thanks without missing a beat. "We thank you." Bringing their heads back up, they put all the cleaning implements in a corner. Then they cast clean. The dirt vanished from their clothes and tools. The towels they had used to wipe their sweat smelled freshly laundered. The first tier spell erased all dirt and dust in an instant. By casting a spell over the whole room, it would have been simple to clean it, but none of them was so impious as to do such a thing in this shrine room. After finally purifying themselves, they sat at a round table. This included the highest-ranking person in the theocracy, the high priest superior. In this place, the people sitting there were all equal. There was no hierarchy. They cooperated as friends, yes, for the prosperity of the human race. Well, I'd like to bring this meeting into session. The one leading the meeting today was the High Priest of Earth, Raymond Zerg Lawrenson. Our first topic is the country that occupied the Ray Esti's Kingdom's fortress city Rantel and established itself in that area about 2 weeks ago, the Nation of Darkness, led by Aints Ul Gaun. There was no matter more pressing than this mysterious country that had appeared so suddenly. But the people who knew details were few, so the intelligence they had gained was only hearsay. For starters, they had heard that the King of Darkness was an undead. They had heard that he was an immensely powerful caster. He had wiped out the Kingdom's army. He controlled a military of undead, and among those undead was a Death Knight. Raymond, the leader of the 6 scriptures and the leader of the meeting today, was supposed to report on what they had found. Someone spoke abruptly. "Perhaps we should have intervened instead of watching on in silence. What are you saying? We agreed it would be too dangerous to face a caster who could control a Death Knight head-on. You seem to be against it, so let us not rehash it all. Still, I can believe they formed a country." Everyone nodded. "What is the Empire planning to do?" "It is founding the country jointly with the Nation of Darkness as an ally. But is that because it has suddenly become its backer, or is it being manipulated?" "It is not manipulation. They have paradigm. Were we wrong to think we could trust the Emperor? The real problem is that we are not making effective use of one of the few deviants. Couldn't we launch the plan to bring that one over to our side?" Well, a sudden clap rang out, chilling the heated atmosphere. Star Reader's second sight of the Black Scripture observed the war between the Empire and the Kingdom. "Please forgive the late report. Some issues have caused delays." Was the issue that strange incident of her locking herself up in her room and refusing to come out? That is what everyone thought. First, I'll pass around this report of what she saw. Nothing we learned later is included here. This is just her words regarding the Nation of Darkness' army on the field. Everyone thought that was rather inconvenient, but they quietly read the papers when their turn came. When they flipped to the final page, their hands froze. They read and reread the same passage. Everyone's expressions stiffened independently, and their faces paled. Raymond watched those changes, smiling. It was a smile of solidarity only someone who knew the same pain could wear. Eventually, Maximilian shouted on everyone's behalf. He opened his mouth so wide that his glasses tilted, but he didn't have the presence of mind to fix them. "Lies, I don't think this could ever happen. As I mentioned, this is strictly a record of what she said." Raymond was so calm that Maximilian was lost for words. While Maximilian caught his breath, as if he had just come running over at full speed, Br Nice asked her colleague for confirmation. "Can I ask one more time? Is this really true? If you believe Star Reader's second sight," then everyone looked down at the pages again with a bitter face. The part they had all stopped at was the description of the King of Darkness' army. "There are hundreds of Death Knights, at least 200. There are hundreds of Soul Eaters, at least 300. This army is worse than bad. If it went berserk, the Kingdom, Empire, the City-State Alliance, and the Sacred Kingdom would be obliterated. We would be too. If they surged for an attack, it would take centuries to recover from the damage. Death Knights estimated difficulty rating 100+. They created squire zombies, and those created regular zombies. The zombies themselves had no fighting ability, but they could contribute to stronger undead spawning in the area. Soul Eaters estimated difficulty rating 100-150, an undead with a bombardment ability that ate the souls of those it killed. Its powers became stronger the more souls it ate. It also gave off an aura that caused fear. Anyone who wasn't a caster using tier 3 or higher would have a rough time facing them. Even just one of each could destroy a city or a country if it was unlucky. Did she not make a mistake? Or could the King of Darkness have realized we were watching and created illusions to confuse us? Yvonne pointed a withered finger in the air and offered several possible explanations. Some voices agreed it could be true, but Raymond cut them off. Black Scripture members have knowledge about all sorts of monsters pounded into them. It's unclear if she remembers it all, but she Starreader second sight oversaw the knowledge side of things. It's unthinkable that she would make a mistake. Additionally, we've confirmed the presence of Death Knights and Soul Eaters at the capital of the Nation of Darkness, what used to be Rantel. Several exhausted sighs filled the air. Everyone sounded incredibly tired, forced to accept this truth as their murmured consultations began. What should we do? Our job is to protect people, so what is our best course of action? What can we do about 500 monsters so powerful that a single one could destroy a country? So they have the military might of 500 small countries. That's insane. What a balance-breaking nation. The question is what the King of Darkness will use that might for. If he just uses it for defense, then there shouldn't be any issues for a while. Don't be stupid. That has far too much power to protect his own country. And isn't he undead? They hate the living. I have no doubt he'll attack neighboring countries. There's no point in thinking about what he might do with the power he has. We should be thinking about how to counter him. That was right, so their conversation changed course. Then the most important thing is whether the Black Scripture can handle it. The Black Scripture was the slain theocracy's most powerful trump card. It was a special unit made up of heroes, similar to a team of adamantite-plate adventurers, but definitively different. Adventurers barely managed to obtain gear spoken of in the heroic sagas, left behind by the gods at the end of a hard search. But members of the Black Scripture all possessed multiple pieces, and even if they couldn't beat their opponents, all they had to do was perform a ritual to summon high-level angels to fight for them. Surely high-level angels wouldn't lose to Death Knights and Soul Eaters. But when they considered the numbers, they were anxious. Everyone looked at Raymond. He cracked a smile. Those who responded to his smile with their own smiles froze when he spoke next. It can be. As a former third chair of the Black Scripture, I can say that going up against 500 of those things is begging for death. Once we were evenly numbered, we've already reached despair. If that wasn't the case, Starreader second sight wouldn't be holed up in her room. His smile changed. Of course it's different for demigods. The others responded with excitement. I am sure even if Death Knights and Soul Eaters attacked, those two could handle them. But we should have a surefire backup just in case. So those two can do it. That's encouraging. Amid the cheers, Zyndine sighed. When they heard how gloomy and tired he sounded, the rest of them lowered their voices. What are you hiding? Zyndine, what do you mean? The laws don't prohibit perjury, fabrication, or concealment, but we ray comrades with a common goal, so we should have tacitly agreed that those things are deadly sins. With that in mind, I'll ask again. What are you hiding? Really, Zyndine, what are you talking about? Why are you asking that? Dominic, something is bothering me. Why is Starreader second sight locked in her room? When he realized no one could reply, he continued. Perhaps she's pessimistic. Or maybe she's in shock. That undead army was probably terrifying. But would a member of the Black Scripture hole up in her room over that? She must have witnessed a power that not even demigods could defeat. Is this the end of the report? Everyone looked between Raymond and Zyndine. What were you planning to accomplish by keeping it secret? I trust you. I know you are not the kind of man who would use the scriptures for your own ends. But what is it you feel you can discuss here? Brilliant. So perceptive as always, Zyndine. I was going to see what was possible first, but well, let us just talk about it now. It was giving me stomach pains, thinking about it on my own, so it's best if I can share with all of you. Raymond scanned everyone's faces. How much have you all heard about the war between the kingdom and the empire, or the nation of darkness? The high priest superior spoke as their representative. I heard the king of darkness cast an immensely powerful spell. It demolished the Rey Esti's army, and the kingdom was defeated. As a result, Rantel was turned over in a deal that appeared to have been decided before the fight. The nation of darkness was established. That's as far as I've heard. Do you know how many people died? The high priest superior shook his head in response to Raymond's question. I haven't heard that much. If I haven't heard, then probably the rest of you haven't either, right? Right. Since that country with a monster leading it took over Rantel, none of the priests or merchants go there anymore. The only news we can get is unverifiable hearsay. That's what we have the scriptures for. For this one, probably not the flurry scripture, but the springwater scripture, right? Oh. So there's information that only you, as the leader of the 6 scriptures, are privy to. All we get are leaks and rumors. Is that so? Then next I'll hand out a detailed report of the war. Star Reader Second Sight saw it. After they read the new document, the room was filled with silence. Perhaps Ivan thought things couldn't keep going on like that. He suddenly asked a question. I see. You didn't show us this first because you didn't want our hearts to stop. It was nothing like that. Your hearts are plenty tough, I am sure. But I did wonder if I gave you this first, if you would even believe it. Ivan grudgingly nodded. That's a good point. Had I seen this first, I might have doubted it. I certainly wouldn't have been sure about it. But once we understand that the King of Darkness' army from the previous document is the truth, then the rest of this that she saw must also be true. But I don't want to believe it. Over half the kingdom's army died from a single spell. The army mobilized 260,000 troops for this fight. Half of that would be 130,000. I heard the kingdom's army was annihilated, but this is just what she saw, right? It's common to overestimate casualties. Still, even if you just consider the single wing being obliterated, that's 80,000 dead. And then he sacrificed them to summon those hideous monsters. We can deny what she saw. This is divine magic. Tier 11 don't you think, which can only mean one thing, the advent of a god. It says here that he looked like, could it be a second coming? That's impossible. According to oral tradition, Lord Sulshana, the god of death, was killed by those horrible 8 kings of avarice. This has to be someone different. Besides, if it were the second coming of Lord Sulshana, we would surely hear something from his number 1 follower. Another one has come, then, probably. It's been 200 years, right? The oral tradition indicates about that much. Of course, one could have appeared somewhere on the continent during that time. Since that lousy plan failed, our national power hasn't improved as much as we wanted it to. Those idiots in the kingdom, that one remark made hatred shine in everyone's eyes. The kingdom was the country established in the safest location. The theocracy assisted with that. It hoped that the kingdom would be humanity's salvation. Thanks to the safe, fertile land, many children were born. Many outstanding characters grew up to become heroes. They fought off the onslaught of other races. Comfort and affluence, however, invited corruption. The kingdom had gone rotten from the inside out. The biggest headache was that they produced narcotics and spread them all over another capable country, the empire. By the time that had happened, the theocracy changed tack. Their second plan was to have the empire annex the kingdom and train promising individuals. The reason the theocracy didn't annex the kingdom itself was that with the council state next door, public opinion could swing toward destroying it. The theocracy's philosophy was that humans were the race chosen by the gods and that other races were to be wiped out. By having everyone believe they were surrounded by enemies and they had to work together, they were able to focus national energy tightly and strengthen it. But if they were next to the council state, their doctrine could zoom off in a dangerous direction. The people gathered in this room knew the other country's strengths, their own country's strength, and their priorities. This is why they were able to think about what the slain theocracy's next moves should be. But it wasn't hard to imagine the people calling for war against the council state. They wanted to eliminate the races that were the enemies of humans. That would be the worst outcome. The council state was strong. More specifically, an individual from the council state was Strong, the Platinum Dragon Lord. He was the child of the Dragon Emperor, and he was dangerous. Fighting with one of the strongest living Dragon Lords could end with their country becoming a mound of ashes. But what would people ignorant of that fact think about simply sitting there alongside a neighbor who should be destroyed? The people in the room could hold them back with force, but the resulting resentment would surely chip away at their nation's strength. They couldn't even deny the possibility of war breaking out, which is why the theocracy couldn't be next to the council state or rule the kingdom directly. The kingdom was also too big to rule from the shadows. Let us focus on the King of Darkness timeline. He has to be the one who annihilated the sunlit scripture we sent out. The atmosphere froze. That caster, calling himself Aints Ul Gaun, appeared in the village around the same time. Then what was that vampire the Black Scripture encountered? I think there's a good chance that it was another being in the same position as the King of Darkness, one of them. That could be. In that case, There's precedent for multiple appearances at once. Perhaps Jaldabaoth is one too. Then the power he displayed in the kingdom would make sense. It explains why such a powerful monster would show up so suddenly. Then what about Momon? Supposedly he came after the vampire, but if our earlier guesses are right, then he's the same sort of being as the King of Darkness.